Will Deadlock become meta? Is she broken? Is she overpowered? Is she extremely strong? Well, I was lucky enough to play her yesterday, and to be honest, I only got to play her for one game, but that game went into overtime and lasted a hot minute. You'll be seeing the footage in the background. I know I'm not the best player, but I do have a ton of thoughts, and I also asked other players, high-ranking players, what they think about Deadlock. Is she meta breaking? Is she going to change the meta? Is she a must pick? Well, let's get into it. Also, if you like the skins you're seeing, the new Neo Frontier skin bundle, I'll be giving it away right now. I will be live on Twitch, link down below. I'll be giving away that bundle, but also getting 1 Radiant to fight 4 Irons with the new Deadlock agent, so more Deadlock gameplay into the new episode ranked most likely. If you're interested, again, link down below, but let's get on with the discussion. Let's get the groundwork laid down right off of the bat. There are a ton of mixed opinions, and why wouldn't there be? Deadlock is new. We don't know how all her abilities will interact with everything yet in certain situations. She's going to take time for people to learn how to play with, how to play her, and how to play against. Those 3 are extremely important and they take time. Who will she synergize with, right? What strategies will come to light? And that's the biggest problem. When Astra was first released, she didn't have that momentum that she did at her peak brokenness, but it happened, you know? And there's nothing to say that this will change for Deadlock in both directions, either underwhelming or overwhelming. Let's start with my opinions. As much as they hold weight, they're still pretty light since I'm just a platinum player. However, I think that's the most crucial thing. It's why I tailor my videos to a specific audience. The vast majority of you guys watching, statistically speaking, will be between silver and plat, some of you diamond, and then some of you, yes, of course, more, and some of you, yes, of course, less. But statistically speaking, you'll be between silver and plat if you're even just watching this video. And that's why I think my opinion at least holds some sort of value. I think she's fun. I think she plays differently. And you might be wondering, who cares if she's fun? Well, it definitely matters, especially at the medium ranks where having fun is the best way to master an agent and grind out an agent. And if you're willing to do that with Deadlock, I think she will reward you. I think some basic lineups that I've barely... This is my first game, and I'm throwing my barrier through the window to hold pushes, and it works super well. It's arguably easier and stronger than Sage for one reason. Let's say I'm Sage here and I throw down my wall. When people peek, it's still already instinct for them to get rid of the wall. While when I'm bouncing my barrier off the ceiling, it'll land in slightly different places at different times. Depending on how people get caught, they're gonna have to focus down the center. And when they're focusing down the center, what do you think I can do? I can peek. Unless they can have the coordination to have 3 focus down the center to drop my barrier while I peek, to fight me, I also catch them off guard. That's the nice thing. With a Sage wall, the only way you can do that is if you're sitting on top, but people are already pretty accustomed to it. So sometimes they'll be ready for the Sage on top. A lot of times Sages won't do that because you might just get picked off early, which would be detrimental to your team, etc., etc. I hope I'm making some sense here, right? I feel she's strong in the mid ranks because that's the ranks where it takes the longest for them to learn how to deal with agents. And right now she's still fresh, she's still fun, and I still think that barrier is strong. I also think the slow field is okay. And this is where her kit starts to kind of destabilize. Her barrier is strong. Her slow is okay. It helps stop with the push, and while like kind of hooked up with the barrier, it just kind of all adds up. They gotta shoot something, they gotta take off the net. It really helps slow down pushes, and that's where she's strong. She's a sentinel and she's filling that role very, very well, unlike Chamber. On the flip side though, her sonic sensors, this one is the most interesting because I actually think that right now the overwhelming opinion is that they're weak. It's too easy to sneak past. You can see them from far, but then that might not be their point. I still think those need time to cook. I think they're supposed to be used after you plant the spike so that when someone tries to defuse, they make noise, they get stunned, you peek off of that, right? Even if they're faking, it comes out so fast that hopefully you can take advantage of it. I think they're meant to be played around hard rotates, in which you kind of know that around this point, they're most likely going to be running. But still, in case they're shift walking, it does suck. It does suck to get killed from behind knowing you have a trap, when if you were playing Cypher or Killjoy, it would have been 10 times more reliable, where there's choke points where they literally have to shoot it. Right now, that's my biggest not sure yet. Some people are definitely saying they're useless, while maybe I'm thinking we just haven't figured out what they're used for yet. All right, but let's move my boosted plat opinion out of the way. What about Immo/Rads? I have Flow Ascending and Dr. Freeze. I clipped them from stream, and this is what they had to say. Links down below, of course.
So on Deadlock, if you think she'll become meta, making a video, I'll give you thoughts. I'll give you proper thoughts. Will Deadlock become meta. Deadlock will be a great agent for maps which have a small choke. So it could be some form of like a Sage replacement. Because Deadlock is basically like a mix of Sage and Cypher. So maps like Haven would be great for Deadlock. Split, potentially Ascent, and maybe Bind. They could be really good maps for Deadlock. So will she be meta? Yeah, she'll have a place in the meta. Is she gonna overtake Cypher and Killjoy fully? No. You'll still rotate which Sentinel you play, depending on what map you play.
There was a lot of people saying that she's completely broken and her ult's completely broken, but I don't think she's good at all. Her, what is it, the slow thing? Like, that goes on the wall? You just walk past it. Like, I don't know. I don't think she's going to be used at all. The sensor, yeah, I don't think she's going to be used at all. They have to make it so that it... If they change the trip, I think she'll be good.
And I understand where he's coming from because I had trouble actually using the trip very well, personally speaking. So I do understand. I just, again, maybe there's a skill curve that we're missing and maybe not. Maybe it's like Yoru's Footsteps where the developers think there's a skill curve, but it never kind of comes out to fruition. That's one where it literally just needs time in the oven. My most strongest thoughts and agreement definitely comes with Flow Ascending, where I actually think maybe Riot released someone solid, like a B tier agent that will fit in certain situations and not others, that has a good skill ceiling but isn't overcomplicated for anyone to take a hold on. For example, when I said Astra is a lot weaker after her nerf and didn't fully recover, people misunderstood me. At high level play or with great teamwork, she's still strong, right? But that's the thing. That's where she falls short on. Anyone can just pick her up and perform very well across the ranks. I think though Deadlock, this Sentinel, doesn't have that problem. If you want a solo main Deadlock, you're not exactly throwing because she's not weak, but she's also not overpowered. That is kind of what I'm getting at, even if you were to crunch most of people's opinions, because I think the aggressive opinions come from the weak trap, while the good opinions come from the strong wall, and they're kind of maybe offsetting each other, but who knows fully. There is one topic we haven't touched on yet, and that would be her ultimate. When it comes to her ultimate, I feel like that one was probably the one that was truly overblown. It was overblown to the fact like, but if it's a 1v1, you lose. But I think we've already seen stuff like this in Valorant. If Raze has her rocket and you make noise and it's a 1v1, don't you feel it's kind of hard to fight it? Or if Gecko has his ult, or if Ree picked up his ult and you hear Thrash come out and you're the last one, isn't it already kind of like that? Or let's say Killjoy decides to use down her ultimate. Isn't it also kind of suppressive if it's in a 1v1? Like, usually burning an ult when there is only one person left is always pretty oppressive. And this ult is actually kind of hard to hit. Similar to how the Molly works, or any Molly would work, or even a Raze rocket, you really do need to have a good idea of where they're at. And the minute they hear you pull it out, they can dodge it. The radius, I wonder if is maybe just as big as Raze's explosion radius. The biggest difference here is its kind of capability of heading through a wall. That makes it kind of strong. And I won't lie, if you are in a 1v1, she finds out where you are, maybe you're hell and you're kind of stuck in a corner, yeah, it's gonna kind of suck. But again, wouldn't it kind of suck if that happened and you were facing Raze, right? Or Thrash, or you're understanding what I'm trying to say. I think it's a strong ult, but not an overpowered ult. And I actually think it takes skill to use, and it is quite easy to miss. I also think it's a little bit finicky. You gotta get used to how it works. Bouncing it off of a wall and missing is something that kept happening to me because it would bounce in weird directions. I found it hard to understand where it's coming from, but maybe that's just me being boosted. Though a lot of people did find similar issues alongside me. It's much better to make sure you just shoot it straight at your target and maybe have them hopefully at the back of a wall, because at the same time, if you shoot it straight at a target and they're not backed up into a wall, it can go past them and then explode behind them. So maybe then you have to shoot it at the floor. I think you guys are getting what I'm saying. It was harder to hit than usual. That's my opinion. So the ult is solid, but not overpowered. And then we've already talked about the rest of her kit. Wall is great. Trip is still up in the air. Molly is good, balanced, well placed. And those are my thoughts, as well as some other people's thoughts on Deadlock.